Hamas are close to agreement on US brokered deal, and that release of hostages are likely to begin in the next several days, where about 50 hostages are likely to be released in small batches. Post the release, there may be a sustained pause in the war, and according to reports, a ceasefire is also likely to take place for 5 days. But US National Security Council spokesperson has denied the reports, saying that no deal has been finalized so far and that United States is still continuing to work hard to broker one. Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, in the meanwhile, has said that Israel will not allow any anti-semantic groups to exist within the Gaza Strip, and laid another condition that IDF will have full freedom of action in Gaza Strip against any threat.
לא אסכים שייכנס אליה אף גורם שתומך בטרור, משלם למחבלים ולמשפחות הטרור, ומחנך את ילדיו לרצח יהודים ולחיסול מדינת ישראל. ללא מהפך כזה במינהל האזרחי שיהיה בעזה, זאת רק שאלה של זמן עד שעזה תחזור לטרור, ולזה אני לא מוכן להסכים. ויש תנאי נוסף שאני מציב ליום שאחרי. לצה"ל יהיה חופש פעולה מוחלט ברצועת עזה נגד כל איום.
Now remember, the demand for ceasefire continues. Tel Aviv has said clearly that it will not agree to a permanent ceasefire, while Palestine has appealed to US President Joe Biden to intervene time and again, calling the situation in Gaza as a humanitarian catastrophe.
רבים בעולם דרשו מאיתנו לא להיכנס לרצועת עזה. נכנסנו. הם לחצו שלא ניכנס לעיר עזה. נכנסנו. הם הזהירו שלא ניכנס לשיפה, על אף ששיפה שימש כבסיס טרור מרכזי של החמאס. נכנסנו. לחצו עלינו להסכים להפסקת אש מלאה. סירבנו והעברתי. אנחנו נסכים רק להפסקת אש זמנית ורק תמורת החזרת חטופינו.
So yes, that's the latest coming in from Israel, with the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu making it very clear that Israel does not support terrorism and it's not going to allow this kind of a terror propaganda, which is time and again being unleashed by the Hamas, to operate from within Gaza, and hence they continue with their mission unabated. But this comes at a time that we've seen how attempts are being made time and again, and there are several countries which are trying to pacify the situation. Really, they're trying to broker a deal between Israel and Gaza, and like I said, according to a report by the Washington Post, Israel and Hamas were apparently close to an agreement on a US brokered deal, and hostages would have also, as per this report, been released within a 5-day period. That is what was being spoken of. But the US National Security Council spokesperson denied all of these reports. He said there's no deal that's been finalized so far, but yes, United States continues to work hard towards brokering a deal. So that's an attempt which is being made as we speak by the United States. In the meanwhile, let's listen in from the Palestinian president as well on what his opinion is on this.
الرئيس بايدن، أدعوكم بكل صفاتكم الرسمية والإنسانية بأن توقفوا هذه الكارثة الإنسانية، بل هذه الإبادة الجماعية بحق أبناء شعبنا الأبرياء، والتي لن يبرئ التاريخ أحدا منها، وتقديم الإغاثة لشعبنا المحاصر في قطاع غزة. لا بد من وقف هذه الحرب فورا. كيف تكون حرب الإبادة هذه دفاعا عن النفس كما يقولون ويدعون؟ إنها في الحقيقة جرائم حرب تستوجب العقاب. كما أنني أدعوكم أيها الرئيس بايدن للتدخل العاجل أيضا لوقف اعتداءات قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي وإرهاب المستوطنين المتواصل ضد أبناء شعبنا في الضفة الغربية والقدس، والذي ينذر بانفجار وشيك.
Let's quickly take in a perspective from Mr. Adam Scott Bellos, CEO, Israel Innovation Fund, who's joining us live on the broadcast. Mr. Adam Scott, what is this entire narrative all about? Reports, go on to cite how there is a tentative 5-day ceasefire deal for release of hostages that both Israel and Hamas have reached. In the meanwhile, US National Security Council spokesperson has come out to deny all of these reports, and Israel maintains there's no question of a permanent ceasefire.
Yeah, I mean, we've had the same talking points, same stance since this conflict began. There will be no ceasefire until the hostages are returned. I think that's extremely important to understand. And there's a reason why these reports would be denied. Also, I find the comments that Mahmoud Abbas made were pretty despicable, given the fact that he has zero power whatsoever and is trying to maintain relevance during a war where it's clearly showcasing he has very little relevance at all.
Okay, and how about the United States maintaining and actually, defining its official position that, yes, we're inclined towards ensuring or rather brokering a deal between Israel and Gaza, and this should stop. It's been 44 days already. If we can make an attempt to ensure that there's
do you
no
think
more
any
life...
of us, wait, time out, excuse me. Nobody cares that it's been 44 days on the Israeli side in terms of our need to have some type of a ceasefire. That's ridiculous. We haven't achieved or finished our goals yet. 240 hostages still remain in Gaza. To us, it's not about enough is enough or it's time for a ceasefire. And honestly, it's a little offensive to have it put that way. There are military objectives.
For those who are trying to say it can't be murder for murder.
I'm sorry? I didn't hear you.
The criticism is coming in from those who are trying to justify the Gazan position by saying it can't be murder for murder.
What position? What position is there to justify? You've got 2 million people that have been held hostage by a eschatological apocalyptic radical Islamic regime that is killing its own people and also attempting to commit genocide against the Israelis. So you have a humanitarian crisis that's been created by a fundamentalist extremist group killing their own people trying to escape, as well as many of them are under the influence of Hamas. Even if only 10% of Gazans are Hamas supporters, that's 200,000 people. So there's clear military objectives that need to be achieved. And when you attack a country and penetrate their border 20 times, the other side doesn't really care about the other side's opinion, okay, or what they feel, given the fact that they attacked one side to the other, okay? So if you look at it logically, there's no way that the Israeli security establishment will ever allow a ceasefire if it hinders our security. One of the main reasons why we have helped increase humanitarian aid to Gaza is because it's actually increasing our security by making sure that the Gazan refugees and the Gazans who have had to leave their homes are able to leave safely. It's why we've allowed for these humanitarian pauses, and it's also to showcase what Hamas has been doing to its own people. It's very clear, cut and dry. You are dealing with an army versus a group of radical Islamic terrorists who turned their terrorist group into a government.
How do you then resolve the hostage situation? Because, there needs to be a larger plan in place. Now that
they should
the
be
IDF...
returned, shouldn't they? If they want a ceasefire, shouldn't they be returned? I don't understand. If Hamas penetrated our border 20 times, killed 1,400 people, okay, shot up a peace party, okay, a peace rave in the south, the Nova party, okay, penetrated multiple kibbutzes, raped over 100 women, bound and burned them, cut a baby out of a young pregnant woman's stomach, killed the baby, and then killed the mother. Do you really think realistically anyone could put water or have this position of immediate ceasefire, hold water without the hostages returned? This war could have ended very quickly if the hostages were returned.
Okay. Oh, okay.
So
are you a firm believer of that, Mr. Adam Scott Bellows, that if the hostages were returned, then the IDF would not have carried on with its strikes? Because, the perception is that the Hamas is doing it on purpose. They want to continue using the Israeli hostages as human shields, and that's why they're wanting this war to drag. But what is being condemned worldwide is the kind of loss of civilian lives that is taking place on both sides.
According to what civilian lives? According to who? Civilian lives according to who? Numbers according to who? The only numbers that we have coming out of Gaza right now are by Hamas, which means they can't be trusted at all. And we have no idea if they were actually civilians or if they were freedom fighters for Hamas. So we have no idea. Okay, so I'm sorry, but the international community could not condemn the October 7th massacre. The UN did not condemn the October 7th massacre. So if on our side of the table, nobody has condemned the violence against us, do you think we take seriously any of the other international condemnations?
And what about
think about it seriously.
What about Israel's
response
to countries who first came out in open support and full support to Israel and condemned the October 7 attack for how it should have been, and suddenly you do see a change in tone in all of those countries who are not now talking about humanitarian catastrophe?
You know what? There is a humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza, and there's no reason to deny it. It's caused by Hamas. Anybody putting the blame on Israel for anything having to do with this war is totally hypocritical and is ahistorically looking at this conflict and trying to rewrite the history of the last month. Now, let's be honest. Palestinian Israelis, or Israeli Palestinians and Arab Israelis, have more rights in Israel than they do anywhere else in the Arab world. And they sure as hell have more rights than Gazans. So let's break it down. Do you really think Gazans under Hamas lived free lives? Okay, there is a humanitarian crisis because one party has been totally crazy. One party has committed more crimes against humanity than the other. One party is constantly looking to use the David versus Goliath narrative in reverse, making them out to be some type of freedom-fighting organization, when in reality, they are an eschatological, apocalyptic, radical Islamic cell that is hell-bent on universal control of this world, killing every Jew on the planet and liberating Palestine from the river to the sea and ethnically cleansing what used to be known as the British Mandate of Palestine or current-day modern state of Israel. I don't think repeating the questions or, have things change just because certain leaders make international responses. We saw Justin Trudeau last week make a fool out of himself as usual, because let's be honest, who can take the Prime Minister of Canada seriously at all? He's a joke. Okay, nobody really cares. Okay,
no, yes, absolutely. And Israel has remained firm on what it maintains with regards to ceasefire so far. They've officially not come out to change their position. But here's a perspective, Mr. Adams, I want you to highlight, because, with no release of hostages inside, Israelis also have been staging protests. In fact, this is a protest that has been staged by Israeli, a 70-kilometer arch in Tel Aviv to Netanyahu's office, demanding the safe return of their loved ones. Now, Mr. Adams, how do you respond to these concerns?
It's raining today.
And what can the Prime Minister do about it, in your view?
I mean, listen, I think it's an absolute travesty that these hostages have not been returned. I also think there's a clear-cut reason why the Gaza Strip was not carpet bombed and completely leveled between October 8th, 9th, and 10th. Okay, and it's because of these hostages. There's a reason why we waited so long for ground troops to enter Gaza. It's because of these hostages. Look at how methodical the IDF has been since the start of this war. The war started on surprise, with a surprise, but since then, we've been very calm and calculated and have not rushed anything. Everybody wants to see the return of these hostages. Okay, everybody is connected in this country to someone who has either lost somebody on October 7th or who is being held hostage, or I'll even add, have somebody that is either in the reserves or been injured since this war has started in the army.